All right, Rhea Ripley versus Mandy Rose at Bad Blood. When you see this picture to your bottom of you, Mike, I first thought it was Mandy Rose. Did you?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really look at it, but I can see it now. I can definitely see it when you say it. Like Otis level Mandy Rose, right?
Oh, yeah. Now, speaking of sidebar of the sidebar, how about Otis stippling in the tongue when he's doing the kissing scenes?
I just read that. I mean, he went for he took a shot. I mean, Sabatelli was probably his boy, but he just said, hey, fuck it. Why not? YOLO.
He said, oh, yeah. And he got right out. But I can't, the striking resemblance of Mandy Rose, but enough of that. All right, Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley for the women's world title. It's cooking. Dominic Mysterio above a shark cage. Is he above the ring or is he off to the side? Because
seems like above.
Okay, it adds a nice added element to it. He can always drop some brass knucks or drop whatever, but I'm sure we'll get to the conclusion of this match in our predictions when we get there. But I like the added element of taking the threat or the distraction, or really the bulk of this feud has been Dominic Mysterio, even though there's history between these ladies. But recently, Dominic Mysterio has been the trigger of this feud, and then presenting above in a shark cage, because ultimately Rhea Ripley should dominate Liv Morgan. And that's the story that they have told, and that's the story that they shall tell. I personally do not have high hopes for this match due to the structure of Dominic being up there, the structure of chicken shit versus kind of like monster. And they've already kind of gone out there and had two pretty good to okay matches before. I thought the SummerSlam match was fine and pretty good at spots. And, add in the men at Bash in Berlin, I thought that was pretty exceptional as well. So they have chemistry here, and can't believe we're calling Liv Morgan a seasoned vet, 2-time champ now, but she's ultimately a chicken shit heel, right? So, and to take away the chicken shit aspect of it and present him above the cage adds a interesting element to the match, but it doesn't really add much structure from the bell to bell that would help Liv Morgan, in my opinion. Overall, what's your kind of feelings towards the structure of that and the structure of this match before we kind of get into what we feel's happening?
So I like everything that's happened with this feud. I mean, this feud has legitimately been going on since April, end of April.
Night after WrestleMania.
Yeah, so it doesn't feel stale. I mean, obviously they switched roles throughout, completely switched roles, literally dropped in one spot to the other. But we talk about Punk and Drew, I'm excited for that match, but the build has definitely been stale. I already think about how this Cody Bloodline KO stuff at times feels stale. Maybe that's because there's Solo leading the Bloodline, right? But this has been going on longer than both of those. I mean, I guess Punk's been going on longer, but he was on TV for less time. The Liv and Dom stuff was brewing excellently when Rhea was off TV with an injury that I never thought was as bad as it was. Portrayed at least. I love the idea of Dom in a Shark Tank. It's one of those notices that it makes sense where they used to use this stip too much. This is a perfect scenario for it. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's boiled over to the point that when was the last singles match between these two guys? SummerSlam? Because they did the tag match in Berlin. So, I mean, it's been 2 months since we've had that match. So it doesn't feel like it's, we've had it 100 times. Even though we have seen it quite a bit of times over the years, it still feels fresh. And everybody's waiting for that Rhea Ripley win, right?
Yeah, I personally don't think we get it here. You have the betting odds in front of you before we get into that?
So Liv was minus 800 as of last week. Now she's minus 700, while Rhea's plus 400. So I think that's
significant for wrestling.
It is. I think that 800 to 700 is probably because someone probably threw some money on Rhea just because that's good money. Plus 500 probably was at that point. So I don't really take too much into that. If it dropped to minus 400 or minus 300, then maybe I'd start thinking about Rhea. But I think Liv's going to walk out with the title.
I think so as well. And I think there's a way that we can get in there as we get to it. You mentioned staleness in the two big men feuds. You feel that this time this is boiled to a point where we should blow this off? Or do you still think there's enough juice in there to kind of continue it on? Let me add to that too, because I think that could add to the finish as well.
I think that we have checks calendar for when Survivor Series is. I think we have at least another 8 weeks to this feud, and probably longer because they probably won't switch the title till after that. Maybe on Saturday's main event.
Oh, that's a good call. Yeah, it's like, how do you want to present Rhea heading into Rumble season and
Netflix? Really, like I think you want to get Rhea the belt by Netflix, but also if we give Rhea the title now, where does it go? You know what I mean? There's really nobody built up for the challenger. If you let Liv continue on with it, Rhea's still chasing, and then by then if she wins it in early January, late December, whatever, it goes into Netflix with it. Now you've got the Rumble. Now you've got Mania season. Everything's heated up. So I think it's a better time to wait on Rhea in this scenario. I think of like when Rhea won the NXT title from Shayna, like right before Christmas, and it kind of like kicked off a new calendar year. That's what I kind of feel with this.
Yeah, or do you use her redemption for like a Mania build, but it's not Liv Morgan? Like you got to ping pong it to someone else besides Liv Morgan.
Right.
Interesting. For sure. All right. I think we're there. Done that. Do you think that once Liv Morgan is done with this title and done with this feud, she is still quasi in the Judgment Day? Or do you think that there's more juice in there post-title, or is it she kind of just drops that one?
I do, because
somewhere else.
Unless like Dom reunited with Rhea as baby faces, which I don't see happening. It'd be stupid. Dom is too electric as a heel. That's the only time that I could see her like leaving Judgment Day, right? I think she adds a character to them that they need, because there's Finn, who's great. Carlito's entertaining. Dom is obviously him, but then JD needs personality around him, right? So I think that, as long as Judgment Day really remains a thing, which I don't see why they wouldn't, I still think she has a role in that group, and I still think her running around with Dom, it's still going to be heel heat. Maybe if I'm going to spoil what I think is going to happen, maybe
go for it, because I was just going to bring it up. I think we're on the same wavelength without talking about it.
Maybe Liv will be going as a heel towards tag title.
Yeah, so, all right, so the Judgment Day becomes the land of the tag titles. All right, so I think we're both skating around it. Her former tag team partner and tag team champion, Raquel Rodriguez, is kind of hovering around a return. I think we last saw her at Elimination Chamber. She's dealing with like allergy to her skin, and before the Elimination Chamber, we hadn't seen her since the fall. So she's been out for like 10 months for the most part, besides a little bit around February. And she's got beef with and history with Rhea. She has a history of a friendship with Liv, and it would be the smart thing where Liv would be the savvy chicken shit to have a backup plan to Dom being in the cage, right? So, and add in the minus 700, 600 money line of let's equate that to the NFL. It's like a 15-point favorite, right? That's 2+ touchdowns. That's insane. So to add that in as well, there's got to be something up their sleeve. I think a lot of people see it, honestly. And if you haven't seen it and then you heard us say it, you're like, oh yeah, right? So that's why I think, to my original point, the structure of this match may not live up to the hype of the potential blow off that it could have, and I don't think we get that here at Bad Blood.
Right. It feels like a blow off match, so that means it won't be. That's the one thing that I've learned about Triple H stuff.
Besides Hell in a Cell, this one.
But even so, like, you could have felt that the strap match was the blow off there. Obviously we all fucking knew.
Well, and then Punk presented it. Punk presented it as is when
going after Gunther from there, right?
Yeah.
So Triple H is pretty good at that. Like, even though we know, like, and I was talking about, like, I was alluding towards War Games. Like, I could see a world where Liv and Raquel team up with whatever Fusion Collective, whatever the fuck their name is, the lesbians. Team up with them, and there's your 5. Rhea can team up with Damage Control and whatever, who cares?
And get her 5 baby faces.
She gets a 5, and then maybe the stipulation is Team Rhea's got to win for Rhea to get a title shot. And then
NBC
2 weeks later, bam. So that's where I ultimately feel this is going. And, you know, I think adding Raquel to that mix makes War Games make more sense, because obviously we're going to get a War Games on SmackDown. The women's War Games will clearly be on Raw. That's got to be the remedy. And then you kind of want this to not really feel like a blow off, even though it's built as one. And at the end of the day, you know, this is still, it's going to change the direction a little bit if you bring a Raquel in. Yeah. Even if it's not Raquel, there's other people that they could just pigeonhole in there. I don't know who, but who knows, right? So I think that's the route they end up going for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, honestly, I feel that we're there. I feel that this match has been talked about immensely. And honestly, I think that you had the Raquel idea dating all the way back to like the Money in the Bank for the women, right? So kind of it's out there, and it's probably been set on and waited on, but I think it's perfect timing to happen here in Atlanta, Georgia at Bad Blood. And if, side note, different matches, do you assume that Cody and Roman are going to close due to the McAfee kind of spoiler thing?
Yeah.
Now, do you think that hurts? Do you think that hurts Punk and McIntyre? I would put that as the opener, personally.
That's what I mean. I would put it as the opener.
You think it hurts it?
I don't. I think being in the middle would hurt it more than opening.
I think going 4th would hurt it. Yeah.
Especially like the weird start time starts at 6.
Yeah, and the way in the McIntyre Punk preview, I said it's the baddest of blood. Like they can't wait anymore. They're going to open it, right? So a little corny, but they could make it work in that scenario. And if the bloodline and Cody and Roman are closing, you have to presume The Rock is going to be there, especially with the hint, and especially with that closing when Drew and Punk deserve it. So I think Bad Blood's going to be special Sunday. And I think this match, unfortunately, is just going to be a cog in the wheel and a continuation. And you get a nice, decent return with some okay action, 12 minutes, if that.
It could be in the co-main spot, right?
Yeah, I don't know what like this is going to be 2nd or 4th, and then Bailey's going to be the opposite, right?
Right.
Then,
like I think Bailey and Nia, if you open with the cell, go Bailey, Nia 2. And then what the fuck else is there? Right?
Finn and Priest.
You got to do Finn and Priest.
What makes more sense? But what makes more sense around Finn and Priest, right?
I think
you got to this first, or the
Finn
conclude that
Priest
second.
Before this, have Priest obviously win.
I think Finn's going to win.
Actually, no, maybe not. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I haven't really thought about that match. But either way, Priest is not available to help Rhea.
Yeah.
After that match, you know.
So cool. All right, Mike. That's it for this preview. We'll see you on the next one, buddy.
All right, later, bro.